Imagine this, a quiet Cleveland Browns training camp media session, routine questions, standard answers, the kind of boring press availability nobody remembers the next day. And then, Dillon Gabriel steps up to the podium and drops a bomb that would ignite a full-blown NFL firestorm. I studied Tom Brady extensively, Gabriel begins confidently, locking eyes with the media. His pocket presence, his competitive mentality, those are the things I've worked to incorporate into my game. Honestly, I see legitimate parallels in our approach, our leadership, and our winning mentality. Cleveland deserves a championship culture, and I believe I can help build that foundation just like Tom did. In that moment, a third-round rookie quarterback compared himself to the greatest football player of all time, before ever throwing a single NFL pass. What happened next was unlike anything Browns fans or NFL fans had ever seen. Within hours, social media erupted. ESPN producers scrambled to get the clip into their morning lineup. And on live television, Stephen A. Smith, the most recognizable sports commentator in the country, delivered one of the most explosive, passionate rants of his career. What? Did this man just compare himself to Thomas, Edward, Patrick, Brady, Jr.? Have I lost my mind? Smith thundered, standing up from his chair, glasses off, gesturing wildly. This is the most preposterous, ridiculous, outlandish thing I have ever heard in all my years of broadcasting. Overnight, the entire quarterback room dynamic in Cleveland flipped on its head. Gabriel, once viewed as the steady, coach-favored developmental option, suddenly became the face of arrogance and overconfidence. Meanwhile, rookie sensation Shedeur Sanders, a player many believed was still a year away from starting, became the symbol of hope, humility, and the future. And this wasn't just a hot take segment. This was a cultural moment. Millions of tweets, memes, and reaction clips flooded the internet within hours. Former NFL quarterbacks chimed in, analysts tore apart Gabriel's comments, and fans began calling for Sanders to take over immediately. By the next morning, what started as one quote had become a full-blown quarterback controversy, and possibly the moment that permanently changed the direction of the Cleveland Browns. Because this isn't just about one comment. This is about a team divided between ownership and coaching staff. It's about a locker room looking for a leader. It's about the thin line between confidence and catastrophe in the NFL. And it's about how one rookie quarterback might have just lost his job before ever officially winning it. This is the story of Dillon Gabriel's Tom Brady comparison, Stephen A. Smith's nuclear reaction, and how Shedeur Sanders quietly became the face of the Browns without saying a word. To understand why Dillon Gabriel's comment exploded the way it did, you have to rewind and look at what Cleveland's training camp felt like before that fateful media session. This wasn't just any summer in Berea. The Browns entered camp knowing they had a rare problem: 2 talented rookie quarterbacks and 1 starting job. From the very first practice, the atmosphere was electric and tense. Coaches tried to keep the competition open, but every snap, every throw, every sideline conversation seemed to be under a microscope. Fans packed the facility daily, chanting for their favorite QB, holding homemade signs, snapping videos that instantly went viral. Cleveland hadn't had this much quarterback drama since the Baker Mayfield era, and this time, the stakes were even higher. Inside the building, the situation was even messier. According to insiders, head coach Kevin Stefanski and much of his staff leaned toward Dillon Gabriel as their preferred starter. Gabriel was polished, experienced, and safe. He had years of college production, knew how to run a pro-style offense, and gave the coaching staff confidence that he could protect the football. But ownership, that was a different story. Jimmy Haslam had reportedly fallen in love with Shedeur Sanders from the moment the Browns drafted him. The charisma, the arm strength, the flash, everything about Sanders screamed face of the franchise. He wasn't just a quarterback. He was a brand, a future star with the potential to finally put Cleveland back in the national spotlight. This created what one source called a Cold War inside the building. Coaches quietly leaked positive reports about Gabriel's progress. Ownership pushed for Sanders to get more first-team reps. Every practice rep felt political. Every press conference answer sounded rehearsed. And all of this was happening under the relentless pressure of an NFL city starved for success. The fan base wasn't patient. They wanted a winner, now. They wanted a quarterback to believe in, someone who could finally deliver a Lombardi trophy to Cleveland. By late July, the tension was boiling over. Reporters were already writing about organizational fractures between the coaching staff and front office. Players, especially veterans, just wanted clarity. "We can't keep guessing who the guy is going to be," one anonymous player told a local reporter. "It's hard to build chemistry when you don't know who your leader is." So when Dillon Gabriel stepped to the podium that day, it wasn't just another rookie answering questions. It was a quarterback fighting for his future. It was a man trying to seize control of a spiraling narrative. Unfortunately for Gabriel, the way he tried to do it, invoking the name of Tom Brady, would pour gasoline on a fire that was already threatening to burn the Browns' entire training camp to the ground. The moment Dillon Gabriel brought up Tom Brady, you could almost feel the oxygen get sucked out of the room. Reporters shifted in their seats. Cameras leaned in closer. A rookie comparing himself to the Tom Brady, 7-time Super Bowl champion, 3-time MVP, universally considered the greatest quarterback of all time, was headline material before Gabriel even finished his thought. At first, his tone was measured. "I've modeled a lot of my preparation after Brady," Gabriel said calmly. "The way he studied defenses, the way he demanded excellence from everyone around him, that's the kind of culture I want to build here." Had he stopped there, it might have been a nice, respectful nod to a legend. But Gabriel kept going. "Honestly, I see some parallels in our approach, our leadership, and our ability to win people over. We're building something in Cleveland, and I think I can be that guy, like Tom was for New England." Boom! That was the sound of the internet exploding. It wasn't that Gabriel meant any disrespect. By all accounts, he was simply expressing confidence. But context is everything. This was a rookie quarterback who hadn't thrown a single NFL pass, speaking to a fan base that had been burned by the next big thing countless times before. Johnny Manziel, Brandon Weeden, Baker Mayfield, Cleveland has heard the speeches, seen the bravado, and watched it all go up in flames. Within minutes, Gabriel's quote was everywhere. ESPN, Bleacher Report, Barstool, NFL Network, every outlet clipped the soundbite and pushed it on social media with captions like, "Rookie QB compares himself to Tom Brady eyes. And did he just say that?" Fans split into two camps almost instantly. Some loved the confidence. "This is exactly what we need, a QB who believes he can be great," one fan tweeted. Others were furious. "You haven't done anything yet. Don't ever say your name in the same sentence as Brady." And in that instant, Gabriel went from safe, coachable option to the guy who just painted a target on his own back. The comparison also put Shedeur Sanders in a fascinating position. Sanders didn't say a word publicly, but he didn't have to. Every Sanders supporter now had ammunition. "This is why Shedeur should be the starter," they argued. "He's humble, he's hungry, and he doesn't need to tell the world he's the next Brady. He's just going to prove it." What Gabriel thought might inspire confidence had instead divided the fan base, the media, and possibly even his own locker room. And that's where Stephen A. Smith comes in, because if the internet turned this into a spark, Stephen A. turned it into a full-on wildfire. If the Dillon Gabriel clip lit the match, Stephen A. Smith was the explosion that sent shockwaves through the entire NFL universe. By the time First Take went live the next morning, the Gabriel quote had already dominated every sports feed, but nobody was prepared for what came next. "Ladies and gentlemen," Stephen A. began, sitting forward at the desk with a look of disbelief. "I want to make sure I heard this correctly. This young man, this rookie quarterback who has yet to throw a single pass in an NFL game, compared himself to Tom. Brady. Did I hear that right?" Then it happened. The glasses came off. The voice went up. The famous Stephen A. packing began. "This is blasphemy," he shouted, nearly standing up from his chair. "This is egregious. This is preposterous. This is one of the most ridiculous things I've heard in my entire career covering the National Football League. Tom Brady is a 7-time champion. Tom Brady is the GOAT, and Dillon Gabriel, you are not him. The clip went viral before the segment even ended. On Twitter, users started posting Stephen A's incredulous reaction face with captions like, "Browns fans right now," and "When you hear a rookie say he's the next Brady." The rant quickly made its way to TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, racking up millions of views in a matter of hours. But Stephen A didn't stop there. "This is why I've been telling y'all about Cleveland," he continued. "This franchise cannot get out of its own way. You've got Kevin Stefanski playing games with this quarterback room. You've got Jimmy Haslam wanting Shedeur Sanders on the field yesterday. And now you've got Dillon Gabriel putting more pressure on himself than any rookie in the league. What are we doing here?" By the end of the segment, Molly Karam could barely keep a straight face, and Michael Irvin was laughing in disbelief. "This kid just gave Shedeur Sanders the job," Irvin said. "Because now, every time Gabriel throws an incompletion, people are going to say, 'That don't look like Tom Brady to me.'" And that was the real consequence of Stephen A's rant. It wasn't just entertainment. It shifted the narrative. Overnight, the Brady comparison went from a simple soundbite to a referendum on Gabriel's entire career. Talk radio hosts spent the next 48 hours debating whether Gabriel had doomed himself. Local Cleveland media reported that even players in the locker room were joking about it, calling Gabriel TB12 under their breath during walkthroughs. In a span of 24 hours, Dillon Gabriel went from a quiet contender for the starting job to the most polarizing figure in the entire Browns organization. And as Stephen A signed off that morning, his final words felt prophetic. "Ladies and gentlemen, mark my words. This is the moment the Browns' quarterback controversy went from simmering to boiling over." Once Stephen A. Smith's rant went viral, the backlash was unstoppable. What had started as one rookie's confident answer snowballed into a league-wide talking point. Suddenly, every sports network had a panel debate about Dillon Gabriel. Was this confidence or arrogance, leadership or delusion? Skip Bayless weighed in, smirking as he sipped his Diet Mountain Dew. "I love confidence," Skip said, "but you can't call yourself Tom Brady when you haven't even taken an NFL snap. Brady was a 6th-round pick who earned everything. He didn't crown himself, he let his play do the talking. Gabriel might have just put a target on his back that he doesn't have the talent to handle." Shannon Sharp, never one to hold back, was even harsher. "This ain't college football, this the NFL," he said on Nightcap. "You can't be out here talking about Tom Brady when you still trying to learn how to take a snap under center. The vets in that locker room don't like stuff like this. Trust me, they gone check him." And that's exactly what started happening. Reports began trickling out of Berea that several veterans pulled Gabriel aside after practice, not to embarrass him, but to remind him how quickly a comment like that can divide a team. "It's about respect," one anonymous player told a local reporter. "You want to earn your spot, not talk your way into it. We've been through too many quarterbacks around here to deal with drama before week 1. Even worse for Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders didn't have to say a word. His teammates started saying it for him. Multiple Browns players reposted memes of Stephen A laughing with captions like, "Our QB room right now rolling on the floor laughing." One player even tweeted, "Some people talk about being Brady, some people just go to work." Fans immediately took it as a pro-Sanders statement, fueling speculation that the locker room was leaning toward Shedeur as the true leader. Local radio in Cleveland had a field day. "You've got one rookie who thinks he's Brady, and one rookie who's just putting his head down and grinding," one host ranted. "Which one do you think the players are gonna follow into battle?" By midweek, the story had completely flipped. Gabriel, once seen as the coach's favorite, was now under siege from fans, media, and possibly even parts of his own team. The pressure mounted with every practice rep. Reporters swarmed him, waiting for another headline-making soundbite. And through it all, Shedeur Sanders stayed silent, letting the noise work in his favor. The Browns' quarterback competition was no longer just about performance on the field. It had become a public referendum on leadership, humility, and maturity. And Dillon Gabriel, fair or not, was suddenly fighting not just for the starting job, but for the trust of the locker room. Inside the Browns' locker room, the tension was no longer just background noise. It was the air everyone was breathing. The Brady comment had become the topic of every conversation, every joke, every subtle look exchanged between teammates. And whether Dillon Gabriel liked it or not, his words had put him at the center of the storm. At first, the reaction was lighthearted. A few offensive linemen reportedly taped a picture of Tom Brady's face to Gabriel's locker as a joke. Teammates ribbed him in the huddle, calling out, "Let's go, TB12," before reps. But what started as humor slowly turned into something heavier. Some veterans weren't laughing. They'd been through quarterback controversies before, and they knew how quickly these situations could derail a season. "We've got too much talent to let this turn into a circus," one player told the team's leadership council. "We need to get this handled before it gets worse." That's when Kevin Stefanski stepped in. According to insiders, the Browns held a closed-door team meeting, no cameras, no media, no distractions, to clear the air. Stefanski reportedly addressed the entire team, reminding them that the quarterback competition was still open, that no job had been won or lost because of a soundbite, and that the focus needed to stay on winning football games. Players were then given a chance to speak. Several veterans reportedly stood up and called for unity. One offensive captain said, "I don't care who's under center, Gabriel, Shedeur, whoever. What matters is that we all pull in the same direction." Another veteran added, "This can't become an us versus them thing. The second we split as a locker room, we lose." But here, where things got interesting, multiple players privately admitted to reporters that the meeting only highlighted the divide rather than solved it. "You can't just erase something like that with a pep talk," one player said. "Some guys already made up their minds about who they want leading this team." Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders continued to play it perfectly. He didn't gloat, didn't throw shade, didn't even mention the controversy in interviews. Instead, he focused on football, extra reps after practice, film study late into the night, quiet conversations with skilled players to build chemistry. It was exactly the kind of behavior veterans respect. And slowly, word began to leak that more and more players were gravitating toward Sanders. Not because Gabriel wasn't talented, but because Sanders carried himself like a leader in a moment of chaos. By the end of the week, the Browns weren't just managing a quarterback competition. They were managing a full-blown culture war. And whether they admitted it publicly or not, the locker room was beginning to choose sides. While Dillon Gabriel fought to manage the media storm he had created, Shedeur Sanders was busy doing the one thing nobody could criticize, working. If Gabriel's soundbite became the headline, Sanders' silence became the story. Every day after practice, Sanders stayed late. He threw extra routes with his receivers. He worked footwork drills with the quarterback's coach. He even pulled a couple of rookie linemen aside to walk through protections so they'd be on the same page when they got reps together. These weren't grand gestures meant for the cameras. In fact, most of them were only noticed because beat reporters happened to catch glimpses on their way out of the facility. This quiet approach started winning him respect fast. "He's just about the work," one veteran told a local outlet. "He doesn't need to tell you what he's gonna be, he just shows you." On the field, Sanders' confidence began to show up in subtle but unmistakable ways. He started taking command of the huddle, correcting route alignments, and even audibling on scout team reps when he saw something he didn't like. What started as a quarterback competition based purely on coaching evaluation was slowly turning into a competition for the hearts and minds of the entire roster. And off the field, Sanders played it perfectly. When reporters asked him about Gabriel's Brady comparison, he smiled and gave the safest answer imaginable. "Dillon's a great teammate," he said. "We're all just focused on getting better and winning games. That's what matters." But even that answer, that calm, polished demeanor, only made fans rally behind him more. "This is our guy," one popular Browns fan account tweeted. "Cool under pressure, focused on the team, give him the keys." Social media sentiment shifted dramatically. Polls on Cleveland sports radio stations started coming back with 70–80% of fans saying they wanted Sanders to start week 1. Memes comparing Sanders' stoic approach to Gabriel, Brady moment flooded timelines. By the second week of camp, something remarkable happened. Sanders started getting more first-team reps. Stefanski claimed it was just part of the rotation, but insiders suggested it was ownership's way of pushing the coaching staff to give Sanders a real shot. And every time Sanders got a chance, he delivered. Touchdown drives in red zone periods, crisp completions in 2-minute drills, energy on the sidelines that players fed off. Without saying a single controversial word, Shedeur Sanders had become the emotional leader of the team. The locker room had noticed. The fans had noticed. And whether Kevin Stefanski liked it or not, the entire city of Cleveland was starting to believe they were witnessing the rise of their next franchise quarterback. What started as a local Cleveland story was now dominating the national sports cycle. The Dillon Gabriel versus Shedeur Sanders quarterback controversy had become the talking point of NFL preseason. ESPN, FS1, NFL Network, every show led with the Browns. You couldn't scroll through Twitter, TikTok, or Instagram without seeing memes, hot takes, and fan polls about who should start Week 1. This was no longer about a single quote. This was about what Gabriel's comment revealed, the deep tension between Cleveland's coaching staff and its ownership. National insiders started reporting that Browns owner Jimmy Haslam was fully invested in Shedeur Sanders as the future of the franchise. The Browns didn't draft Sanders just to sit, one league source told The Athletic. They believe he can energize this team and this fan base from day one. And that's where the real organizational shift began. Behind the scenes, Haslam reportedly met with Kevin Stefanski and GM Andrew Berry to discuss the quarterback situation. While Stefanski was adamant about competition being decided on the field, ownership made it clear they expected Sanders to get every chance to win the job outright. That meant more first-team reps, more time with the starters, and most importantly, a chance to start one of the key preseason games. The ripple effects were immediate. Reporters noticed Sanders running with the ones in joint practices. Beat writers tweeted that the offense looked more explosive when he was under center. Even the national media began framing the battle as Gabriel trying to hang on rather than Sanders trying to catch up. And Gabriel, every move he made was now under a microscope. When he threw an interception in a practice session, clips of it went viral with captions like, "This ain't Brady behavior, loudly crying face." When he made a nice throw, skeptics still replied, "One good throw doesn't make you TB12. The weight of the narrative was crushing him, and you could feel it. Meanwhile, Sanders was becoming a star before ever officially starting. His jersey sales reportedly spiked during camp. Kids started showing up to practices wearing his number. Local businesses began running ads featuring his image, calling him the future of Cleveland. By the time national analysts like Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport began reporting that Sanders had genuine momentum to be named the Week 1 starter, it was clear this was no longer just a quarterback competition. It was a franchise-defining decision. The Browns were no longer asking, "Who gives us the safest chance to win?" They were asking, "Who do we want to build around for the next decade?" And thanks to one viral soundbite and the fallout that followed, the answer seemed to be leaning more and more toward Shedeur Sanders. When the dust settled from the media firestorm, the Cleveland Browns were no longer the same team. Their quarterback competition, once billed as a slow-burn developmental battle, had been forced into fast-forward. Gabriel's Brady comparison didn't just shake the locker room, it set a new timeline for the entire franchise. For Dillon Gabriel, the stakes couldn't be higher. This wasn't just about winning a job anymore, it was about salvaging his reputation. Across the league, executives and analysts began whispering about Gabriel's judgment and self-awareness. "Talent isn't enough in this league," one former GM said on a national radio show. "If a rookie shows that he doesn't know how to manage the moment, it scares you. You wonder if he'll handle adversity the right way." And adversity was now his reality. Gabriel's margin for error shrank to zero. A single bad practice became headline news. A missed throw was no longer just a missed throw. It was a referendum on whether he could ever live up to the pressure of being an NFL starter. Every press conference was watched closely, with fans dissecting whether he was apologetic, defensive, or delusional. Inside the building, coaches faced their own crossroads. Kevin Stefanski had long preached competition and meritocracy, but the organization's direction was clear. Sanders was the future. Nomming him the starter early would quiet the noise, energize the fan base, and align with ownership's vision, but it risked alienating Gabriel permanently. That left Gabriel with two choices. Option 1, swallow his pride, issue a public statement acknowledging the mistake, and fully commit to learning behind Sanders. That path could buy him time, rebuild trust in the locker room, and allow him to grow without the crushing spotlight. Option 2, remain defiant, cling to the Brady comparison, and potentially force the Browns' hand, which could result in a trade or a benching that might derail his development entirely. League history is filled with quarterbacks at similar crossroads. Some, like Geno Smith, found redemption after years of being written off. Others, like Johnny Manziel, never recovered from the moment the narrative turned against them. Gabriel now stood at that fork in the road, with every decision magnified. For Sanders, the future looked brighter than ever. The controversy had cleared his path to QB1's status, lowered expectations by framing him as the humble alternative, and united the locker room behind him. He was suddenly not just a quarterback, but a symbol of Cleveland's future. The next few weeks would determine whether this saga became a story of redemption or a cautionary tale. Gabriel had the talent to rewrite the narrative, but he'd have to decide quickly whether he wanted to be Tom Brady the comparison or Tom Brady the competitor.
If you enjoyed today's breakdown and want to keep up with all the drama, trades, and behind-the-scenes action in the NFL, then don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps this channel grow and lets us know you love this kind of content. And hey, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with your friends, your group chats, or anyone who loves football as much as you do. The more the conversation spreads, the better it gets. Most importantly, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss when we drop fresh stories, wild rumors, or breaking updates that the mainstream media won't talk about.